Gong Hee Fa Chai Humpnostication Proclamation.
Well, howdy, folks, and welcome to the Humpnostication Proclamation for the AT&T Byron Nelson. This program is made possible by the good folks over at Gups Corner. If you aren't a member at Gups Corner yet, you can use the promo code PGA Champ up until the PGA Championship for a special discounted rate. Hump is pumped, very, very pumped to be joined today by a man who really needs no introduction to the golfing community. He's an award-winning golf writer, Emmy winner, formerly of the Golf Channel and ESPN, now with the Action Network. Mr. Jason Sobel, how you doing today, Jason?
Hump, I got all those accolades. Yes, it's true. Not a big deal, but being on with you is going to be at the top of the list from now on.
Oh, it's got to be at the top of the list. No doubt about it. Listen, man, when you got to the Action Network, you did a series of basically professional golfers' favorite gambling stories. You got stories in there from Tom Watson, Bernhard Langer, Davis Love, tons of guys, even a story about Phil taking $100 from you.
Yep.
Now, if somebody hasn't got into that series yet and they say, man, I got time to read one of those stories today, which one do you recommend to read?
Oh, they're not that long. I think you should read them all. There's so many good stories, and this has nothing to do with me. I mean, all I did was ask the question. These guys just unloaded with some great stories. If you want sort of like the uplifting story, Tony Finau tells a story about driving out to Vegas from Utah with his brother. They were like 18 years old, had no money, getting in these big money games. He goes, we were like down, I think it was like $1,000, $1,200 with 4 holes to play. And he goes, I don't know what we're going to do because it's not like they're buddies of ours. We can just say, hey, I owe you. And so instead, they kept playing, they kept pressing. He made a hole in one. They wound up $500, and they got out of town as fast as they could. And he's like, man, but that taught me right there that like I have what it takes to perform under pressure. So I thought that was a great one. Gary Woodland had a great one about playing Pebble with a couple of buddies, and he's like, I was beating them pretty good. And the last hole, there were presses, and there were all sorts of little things going on. He's like, I could win like $30,000 on the last hole, and basically he kind of threw the match a little bit because he didn't want his buddies to get that much money. There are so many good ones. JT playing with Michael Jordan. He was caddying for MJ at their place in Goshen in Kentucky, and MJ said, hey, little man, go get the sticks. Me and you are going to play for some money. He said, I got paid out pretty well. He said he birdied like half the holes they played together. He got paid out pretty well. So there's some really good stories there. You gotta search for them, but if you can't find them, tweet me. You guys find me on Twitter, and I'll show you where to find those stories.
Yeah, man, they are. It's a great series, and they are great stories. Really enjoyable to read, man. So if you haven't read them, get over there to the Action Network, read them. Let's move on now to this week's tournament, the Byron Nelson. It's at Trinity Forest down in Texas. It's kind of like a European links style layout down there in Texas. No trees on the course, huge greens. It looks like from what I'm seeing, there could be, a decent amount of wind and rain heading into the week. So degenerates who are either looking to make lineups for DFS or place, first round leader bets, winner bets, top 20 bets, whatever they're looking for. If you were going to say, hey man, this is what you should concentrate on looking at this course, what would that be?
There's a lot to go by. First of all, obviously not a lot of course history because there was only one previous event at Trinity Forest. I can tell you that when PGA Tour events go to a new venue, they usually err on the side of caution in the first year. As you might remember, Greenbrier years ago when they held it there for the first time, Stuart Appleby won with a 59 in the final round, and then they went back and made it tougher. Basically, they want to scare all the guys off the first year. So I think a lot of people are going to see 23 under winning score by Aaron Wise last year, 4 under making the cut on the cut line, and say, wow, this is a really easy golf course. It's not going to be that easy. First of all, they're going to toughen it up. They gave them an easy one last year just to start it off, but they're going to toughen it up this year. And the winds are supposed to blow. I saw a gust of up to 15 to 18 miles an hour over the first couple rounds. So there's going to be about 1.5 club, 2 club wind on that golf course throughout. And there's not much to keep the wind from moving across because, like you said, it's a European-style linksy type course. So I'm looking at a lot of guys who are links-type players, non-Americans. I mean, Mark Leishman, who was runner-up last year, stands out to me as a guy. Whenever first of all, you can play the ball on the ground like you can at Trinity. And second of all, the wind blows as it's supposed to do, at least for the first few days this week. To me, that's like perfect Mark Leishman conditions. So I like him a lot. I'm filling out lineups with Rafa Cabrera Bello. I just think that good links player over the last couple of years, you can almost see the trends. He's got 3 top 7s on the PGA Tour in the last 2 years. In each instance, he had 3 or 4 sort of 20th, 22nd, 16th place finishes, kind of right around there. And that's what he's had in his last few starts going into this one. So I see a big one for him. A couple of Europeans, Russell Knox could be okay. I think Alex Noren at the price he's at, maybe betting-wise and maybe not so much DFS, but there's great value there on a guy who was top 10 in the world not that long ago. Matt Jones is another guy who was 13th last year, plays well on links as an Aussie. So I'm giving you some names, but give me, you want some specific stuff here, or you want me to just keep throwing names? I can name the whole field and I'll get one right at some point.
Well, man, I know in your preview you mentioned doing a full belly flop on Leishman. You mentioned how he's good in the wind and playing the ball on the ground like you just told us here. Another guy that you mentioned there, but you didn't say belly flop. You talked about sticking your toe in the water. Where are you on Jordan Spieth this week?
I'm sort of like, if it's ever going to happen this year, it's going to happen this week. I mean, it's a home game for him. He's playing on a course that he knows better than anyone else. I remember about 3 or 4 years ago talking to Jordan about Trinity before they even talked about having this golf tournament on the golf course. And he said, I was standing on the 4th tee box with Cameron McCormick, his instructor, and I turned to Cameron and I said, they could host a U.S. Open here right now. So he loves the golf course. He's been around the golf course, knows it really, really well. The only problem, of course, is he hasn't finished in the top 20 yet this year. I'm not sure. I honestly, I've kind of missed Jordan. I've been at about 7 or 8 events this year, and I've kind of missed Jordan. Like, he's been at the ones that I haven't been at, vice versa. So I haven't really seen him. I haven't caught up with him. I don't know exactly what's going on there. All I know is that, and I've gotten to know him really well over the years, and all I know is that the guy is a tireless worker. The guy will come back. This is not the end of Jordan Spieth and we'll never hear from him again kind of story. This is just he's kind of dormant, as somebody put it on Twitter to me, and I thought that was a good word to use because I do think he'll come back. Then again, if it's going to happen, it's going to be this week. I mean, I don't see him playing poorly this week and then all of a sudden jumping back to Bethpage and playing really well for the PGA Championship next week. So, like I said, dipping my toe into the water. I'm not suggesting that anyone go all in on Jordan Spieth this week, but if you really like Spieth, if you want to get some value on a guy who probably has a little value on him right now because he hasn't played that well, this is probably the week. And if it doesn't happen this week, I'm probably off of him for at least a couple of months.
Yeah, for the foreseeable future. Spieth,
Yeah.
probably that guy up as far as DraftKings is concerned, up in that $10,000 and up range, that is going to be the low-owned guy. So maybe worth taking a shot on him. If we move down into that next price range, which is $9,000 up to $9,999, there's a guy there that I'm a little bit interested in. He's kind of Spiethian because he hasn't played very well this year. He had a top 2 out at the Phoenix Waste Management, but since then he's been kind of bleh. But this guy shot a 62 in the Open Championship a few years ago, so he knows how to play the links. Do you have a take on Brandon Grace?
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, I thought about him, and the recent results, the recent form sways me off of him. But like you said, really good links player. He was, I believe, 3rd here last year, if I'm not mistaken. I think that Grace could have a nice week. He's a guy that tends to return to the scene of the crime, if you will, and be a horse for the course type of guy. So this should be a good get-right game for him. And again, I am off most of the Americans, and I'm on most of the guys who have shown a propensity to play well on links course. And sometimes we tend too often to just say that's the Europeans. Hey, there's links golf in Europe, and this guy's a European. He plays links golf really well. Well, I think South Africans and Australians play links golf better than Swedes and Danes. So it's not necessarily just what continent you're from, but it's really what you grew up playing. And I think Brandon Grace, being a South African, I think this could be a really nice place for him. He's shown, like I said, a propensity to play really well on link-style courses. So you're making me think, Hump, because right now I don't have him in any lineups, but now I'm starting to go, I'm staring at his picture on DraftKings right now, and I keep looking into those eyes going, It just might happen. He might convince me this week.
All right, man. Stick it in this price range for one more guy. This is a guy that I always love. I don't know what to think about him this week because everybody loves him. So I'm kind of like, yeah, it's Killer Keith Mitchell. He played well here last year as well. What's your thoughts on Mr. Mitchell? Probably going to be pretty chalky this week.
He is, and I'm actually off of him this week. I'm surprised, and this was before I knew a ton about Keith Mitchell's game, but knowing what I know now, I'm a little surprised that he played as well as he did here last year. I believe he was T3, T4 last year, had a really good performance, but shouldn't really be a great Keith Mitchell type course. I'm actually on him, started making some lineups for the PGA Championship next week. I love him. I think he's priced really nicely for the PGA Championship. I think Bethpage plays more to his skill set than Trinity Forest will. So I am not on Mitchell this week. It by no means means that I don't like him. I just don't think that this is the right course fit, even though he played well. I know I'm going against everything that we've been shown so far, but I'm basically fading Mitchell this week and then jumping all over him next week because I think Bethpage fits his game a lot better. And I'm hoping, Hump, that it basically plays out that way, that Mitchell is chalky this week, doesn't play well, then everyone jumps off of him next week because he didn't play well at Trinity, and he jumps back in and plays well at Bethpage. So that's what we're all hoping for if we're doing that.
That would be huge. Off the top of my head, I think he's like $7,800 at the PGA Championship. So, I mean, he looks really, really good there. Let's move down now into that $8,000 range. You already mentioned RCB, Rafa Cabrera Bello, as a guy you like. Now, this range is absolutely loaded with a bunch of Euros. I'm going to spit some names out there, and you tell me which one of these guys you like the best. We got Lucas. Right. They call him Beer Garden. I call him Beauregard. We got Thomas Peters. We got Russell Knox. Yeah, I think you already mentioned Alex Norrison. And we got Olesen. Which one of those guys, if you were going to choose one, do you like?
It's a really tough call for me. Process of elimination, Peters is out. I'm off Peters. I don't know why he hasn't been a better player over the last couple of years, but it's just not happening for him right now. I don't think he gets it back at Trinity, but he's a guy that can play well at Bethpage. I mean, Bethpage, again, fits his skill set a lot better than Trinity's does. So I'm off of him. Beauregard, I feel like he's still riding the high of beating Tiger and getting into the semis of the match play. I feel like his price both in DFS and betting and matchups and everything else is still riding that wave and still a little too high for my liking. So, in fact, I wrote in my my piece on matchup bets that I'm fading Beauregard against actually another guy who's priced right around that same area, though, an American, Scotty Scheffler, who's played really well on the web.com this year off a playoff loss on Sunday, plays golf at Trinity. So I really like that matchup against Beauregard. So I'm working my way up the process of elimination. The next guy, I said I like Noren. I don't love Noren. I like him. You want to fit him into a lineup. I think he's probably going to be pretty low owned. So I like him, but I'm not all in. I'm kind of hedging a little bit back and forth. But I think Noren's a good pick. Knox, I do like. This should be a good Knox course. The only thing throwing me off on Russell Knox is the fact that RBC Heritage, Harbortown, should be a perfect Russell Knox course, and he went and missed the cut, his first missed cut of the year just a few weeks ago. So that's kind of making me think twice about taking Knox this week, but it probably shouldn't. It probably shouldn't have an effect. And the guy I like the most, Torbjorn Olesen, is, I don't want to say an elite player, because when you say elite, it's like the top 5 or 6 players in the world. But I think Torbjorn Olesen is a guy that could be in the second tier of golfers in the world. I think he's better than a lot of people realize. I think now that he's going to play more in the U.S., I think he'll start playing well. And this is a perfect type of venue for him to kind of get that PGA Tour career rolling. So I could see Olesen having a really nice week this week.
That's good to hear. That's interesting to hear, because Olesen, out of those guys, from the data that I'm looking at, appears to be going the most overlooked. So I don't think there'll be many people on him at all. So that could be a good DK play right there. Now, you mentioned Scotty Scheffler. I kind of thought he would go really unnoticed in the $7,000 range, but there have been a lot of people talking about him. So I'm not sure that guy's going to fly under the radar like I was hoping he would, but talk a little bit more about him, because he's played mostly on the web tour. He's had a couple of nice finishes on the PGA Tour this year. You think he will play this course well?
I do, and I think that 3, 4, 5 years ago, maybe, and maybe I'm not giving our old selves enough credit, but I think he would have flew under the radar a little bit more back then. I think there's so much information and data and analytics now that we're doing more research and we're becoming smarter about what we're watching. And I think a lot of people will jump on Scotty Scheffler. I'm bad at guessing percentages, maybe a 10, 12% type ownership. What are you seeing there, Hump?
Yeah, he will be double-digit owned. I mean, he's not going to be crazy high, but as far as $7,000 guys, he's going to be on the higher end.
Yeah, so I do like him this week, coming off a playoff loss, like I said, at the Web.com tour event this past week. He plays at Trinity. He's either a member at Trinity or he at least plays there all the time. The only really thing going against him this week is that he's paired with Tony Romo for the first 2 rounds. In fact, he and Dylan Fratelli, another guy that I kind of like this week, are both paired with Tony Romo, and you never know how these guys are going to react to having huge crowds around them and, not really golf type crowds. So maybe guys aren't necessarily like the spectators aren't as well behaved, let me say, as normal golf fans would be. So you never know how that affects the guy. Look, if it affects 2 shots during the course of 36 holes and you say, well, that's not really a big deal. 2 shots, you could have had birdies on both holes. You have bogeys instead because guys are moving around as you're trying to hit the ball. All of a sudden, that's a 4-shot swing, and that could be huge. So I won't jump off Scheffler or Fratelli because of it. Just like a little word of caution out there that they're playing with him.
Yeah, man, that's really good information. That's why people come to the Humpnostication Proclamation to listen to Jason Sobel. Man, that is good stuff right there. Hey, in the $7,000 range, I'm going to give you another kind of multiple choice. This one's got all the Asians in it. So we got CT Pan, KH Lee, my boy, Crazy Kiradich, Appy Barnrat, and we got Sung Kang. You got to choose one of those 4. Who you going with?
Not even a question for me. I love my boy KH Lee this week. I'm telling you, he is going to go. You talk about guys going overlooked. Again, you're looking at ownership percentages. I'm guessing 2-3% for KH Lee. I mean, no one's taking KH Lee. No one knows who this guy is. I can tell you who this guy is. He finished 7th and 14th at the Valero Texas Open and the Honda Classic. The common bond with those two in this week, the wind is blowing and they're really tough golf courses. So this might not be as tough as the other ones. He's going to have to make some birdies. But what we've seen so far is that when the wind blows, KH Lee plays better golf than the competition. So to me, KH is a really nice play this week. Looking at what he's done lately, he's making cuts. He's made 4 cuts in a row. He's got a 14th and a 26th in his last 4 starts. So he's a guy that's trending in the right direction as well. So it's not just, hey, I like him for a course fit or at least a condition fit. He's actually in form too. So I think KH Lee of those guys is a really nice play this week.
Kyung Hoon Lee. I love it, man. And you did not even hesitate. So that makes me – I like that. I like that a lot, man. All right, so now we're going into the bottom of the barrel, down there in the $6,000 range. So if somebody's on DraftKings, they want to build, a real stars and scrubs type approach. They want to get Brooks Koepka in their lineup. They got to pull a guy out from down here. There's some guys that I'm interested in. I always like this guy, Hank Lebioda or Lebioda, however you say his name, but he's not really going overlooked this week. So we're going to skip him, and I want you to hit me with a take on DJ Trahan.
I'm off Trahan.
All right.
I'm just not feeling it. I can't tell you a good reason why, but other than I like some other guys better. I will Hump. I'm going to start a little bit higher, but 7,200 for Brian Harman is armed robbery. Brian Harman, you go back and look at his scores at Quail last week. 75 in the second round is the only thing that kept him from contending. He's just, quite frankly, he's a lot better player than everybody else in that price range. He's starting to trend back in the right direction after not playing very good golf for a while. So, granted, it's not a bottom of the barrel like you were saying. It's 7,200 on DraftKings, but I think Brian Harman is criminally underpriced, and I like him a lot this week. Going lower, I'm going at 6,600. Jimmy Knaus, Jimmy Hard K on Twitter, has played really well lately. Had a 13th place at Quail last week, 2 top 25s in his last 3 starts. If you're looking for a guy who, like you said, I'm going Koepka, I'm going Hideki, I'm going Jordan, and I'm going super low price on a couple other guys. Jim Knaus is a guy that, hey, look, at that point, you're looking for a 25th place finish. I mean, yeah, it'd be nice to grab a Max Homa at that price and say, hey, look, I just got the winner, and I'm going to win thousands of dollars this week because I grabbed a 300-1 type bet, and I got a guy at the bottom of the lineup who's going to win the tournament. I don't know that Jim Knaus is going to go win the tournament, but you're looking for a guy that's going to make the cut and play pretty well and make some birdies. I think that's your guy right there.
That's awesome. And while you were talking, I kind of looked over to see if anybody had mentioned Harman this week, and you might be the first person to mention it. So
Really?
let's get some Brian Harman in those DFS.
All right, so we're talking. All right, just as we've mentioned this, Olesen, no one's on. Harman, no one's on. I was guessing, you didn't say, but I'm guessing KH Lee isn't like 40% owned this week, right?
No, not even close. Yeah. So we got three guys right there who are plugging in. I like that.
All right, I like that. Yeah.
All right, so two more scrubby $6,000 guys that I want a quick take on. Doug Gim, some people have talked him up. Any love for Mr. Gim?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I feel like this is a University of Texas reunion week. We got Gim and Scheffler and Fratelli and obviously Spieth's up there. A lot of Texas guys with ties to the area. So, I could see Gim playing well. Again, he's probably a better player than almost everyone else in that price range. Just a matter of whether he's going to step up with the big boys and play well this week. So, yeah, I don't mind him. I don't necessarily love it. I just don't have that much information on him. I haven't seen what he's been doing lately. So it's tough for me to say, yeah, I'm all in on Gim. But if you like him, go for it. Yeah, it's a good flyer.
And then another University of North Texas guy, Sebastian Munoz. Any take on him?
None.
Okay,
Next.
fair enough.
He's not a guy that was on my radar. I mean, maybe. I just don't. I wasn't looking down that far. Quite frankly, let me look at some of the guys around here that super super cheap guys. Zach Sucher made the cut at the Quail last week. First time playing like 2 or 3 years. Don't love that. My boy Roland Thatcher, Monday qualified. I just got to shout him out. I caddied for him on the Nationwide Tour back in 2007, Chattanooga. One of the best guys on tour, an absolute great guy. He just took a club pro job not that long ago and has since then qualified for 2 PGA Tour events. I'm not taking him, and he's one of my really good friends, so that could probably tell you where I feel about him as a player. Anyone going Tony Romo at 6,000? Anybody? Anyone?
Oh, good Lord. I don't think so, man.
You might just do it for fun. Just have something to root for. Maybe not in your biggest lineup, but if you just want to have a little Tony Romo action out there. I think he's going to play okay. I don't have a problem. We're getting off the betting stuff, the DFS stuff a little bit here, but I don't have a problem with any former athlete, local celebrity getting an unrestricted sponsors exemption to play in a tournament. It's funny. I always hear from fans saying he's stealing a spot from a deserving player. First of all, he's not stealing it. It's not like he hacked into AT&T's computers and took a spot from them. They offered it to him, and he took it. Secondly, if you're a deserving player, then you're already in the field. And if you're not in the field, then you're not deserving. And I love the fact that after I put that on Twitter yesterday, Charlie Belgian, who's a really good dude, a little outspoken, he's been on the tour for a while, came out and said, I'm 5th on the alternate list, and I do not feel like Tony Romo took my spot. I need to play better, and if I had played better, I'd be in the field right now. And I love the fact that he came out and said that.
Yeah, I saw that, and I thought that was really cool, man, that he would come out and say that to, a guy who potentially could be in the tournament, and he's saying, nah, man, Tony's in. It's okay. People chill out. So I like that. All right, man, one last for you. Who's winning this week?
I feel like I want to go chalky and take Leishman. I just kind of get the sense it's going to be a little something different, and maybe not all that different, but in my mind, Rafa Cabrera Bello keeps kind of popping up in my mind as a guy that's ready to win a PGA Tour event. The fact that he hasn't won on PGA Tour, and he's played enough of these tournaments here in the U.S. now that you would think he'd step up and win something. It feels like a good one for him to go out there and win. So I'm going RCB this week. Just a little kind of certainly not chalky, but not as far down below the depths as Max Homa was last week.
That's awesome, man. RCB, you heard it here. Jason, I appreciate you coming on the Humpnostication Proclamation. If for some reason you're not one of the 200,000 people already following this man on Twitter, you can find him at Jason Sobel, T-A-N for the Action Network. I was an Action Network employee for approximately 48 hours, so we were once co-workers.
I missed you in the office at the party that day. Yeah.
I didn't see you at the water cooler, brother. All right, man. I know you're heading out to play some golf today, so good luck, man. And I appreciate you coming on the show. Thanks, dude.
Thanks, bro. Thanks for having me. That was fun.